tried to sabotage the igloo? Who tried to sabotage the igloo? Who tried to sabotage the igloo? Who tried to sabotage the igloo? Darren and Graham are gonna get you. Darren and Graham are gonna get you. Sing it, they're making preparations. Preparations for their reparations. Sing it, Viva Grimerica Nation. Oh, Viva Grimerica. Oh, Viva Grimerica.
I believe in the electromagnetic anomalies. I've investigated long enough to find out that these vortices, electromagnetic vortices, are quite real, and I think a lot of things come into play.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We're going to be chatting with Gian Quasar a little bit later. Great chat. We talk about the Bermuda Triangle and a bunch of other stuff. It really is a fun one. Yeah, you guys should enjoy this one.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he pisses off both
Everybody.
sides,
Yeah,
right?
pisses off everybody.
Because he follows the facts, and that's going to lead to mystery, but it's also going to lead to probably some answers as well. So both sides can get a little irritated.
That's right. So, yeah, it was a fun chat. I didn't really know about Jen. I just sort of stumbled upon him on Twitter. And then, wow, what a great chat. Yeah, it's a fun one. You guys should really enjoy it. And, of course, we got talking out of turn here. Over here, the one and only Graham Hate Speech Dunlop. How's it going, bro?
Don't curse me.
Doing any hate speeching lately? I think you learned your lesson. That's good.
What lesson? To talk about it? You can't even talk about it?
You learned? No, I don't think you'll do it again.
Do what again?
Oh, you didn't.
I didn't.
You
I'm not
didn't
the
even do
one.
it.
This is what I don't get. I'm just explaining a story. Can't even talk about a story anymore
I forgot it was
without
you.
without people thinking you're going to condone it. I mean, I don't know.
There you go.
There you go. Bango, bango.
Fuck you, man.
Darren and Graham are going deep. It's a
Were you ready for that?
UFO quote of the week. Words to ponder and critique.
I thought for sure I was going to get you there.
It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
There you go.
All right, this is my favorite part of the episode.
Is it still?
Actually,
not the interview with Gian Quasar?
Well, that's pretty good because we talk about USOs
You're just
and
all
UFOs.
into this fucking 10-second quote is the best part of the episode. We should start a new podcast. Just quote, boom, 10 seconds, done.
Well, no, the best part of the intro then. How
Okay.
about that? Okay, because John was pretty.
Not the synchronicities and the stories that people take the time to send
Oh,
you.
come on. Yeah, I mean, I like that too. Scientifically, we eliminate the simple hypothesis. It's not a plane. It's not a helicopter. It's not a natural phenomenon because the descriptions don't match. Therefore, this global phenomenon resists any other explanation. The only remaining hypothesis is the hypothesis of extraterrestrial origin. That is from Lieutenant Clairbaugh, Secretary General of the Belgian government.
Ooh, I like that one. Did you see here Curry's going to go meet the king and queen?
Who?
Of the Netherlands?
No.
Might get knighted. Wouldn't that be fucking something?
You can get knighted in the Netherlands? I thought that was only a UK thing.
No, I think you can be a knight.
Whatever king and queen can, I guess so, right? It doesn't have to be a UK thing. I guess there was like Dutch knights in the ancient times.
I wonder if they made movies about them. Like Monty Python.
No, only the English have that sense of humor. To take the piss out of their ancient origins of King Arthur and
what? King Arthur? You've been watching too much fucking. Have you watched it recently or what?
No.
Huh.
No.
I've got them all now. I haven't watched them again yet.
Got what?
All the Monty Pythons. Life of Brian and whatever. There's like 4 or 5
So
of them.
Life of Brian and the Holy Grail are the 2 that you gotta watch. You should probably watch it again. The last time you watched it, you weren't in proper state of mind. You probably didn't get it. You know what? Actually, it does take a few times.
What's that supposed to mean? Oh, when we were at the cabin, I was on the mushrooms.
Yeah, but it takes
Right.
a few times to get it. Like, it really does.
I can believe that. I can get on with that.
It's a bit overwhelming at first, all the scenes and all that. And then once you start realizing how they're making fun of the whole system, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it still fits.
It does.
It's incredibly timely.
Bingo, bango, social media jingle. Don't forget to rate, comment, and or subscribe to the Grimerica newsletter. Bingo, bango, social media jingle.
I fucking lost it again.
To rate, comment,
Can you believe it?
and or
What'd you lose? Oh, you lost the poll?
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to tag the poll on there.
I should have retweeted it or something so that it would go to the top of the thing. Or I could have taken a screenshot. There's literally a million things I could have done.
Now you got to scroll all the way through while I try and fill the dead air.
I don't know if I already passed it.
So Jamie Janover's coming to Calgary. He was a past guest of ours, and he's an emissary of Nassim Harriman, and he's coming to do a presentation. It'll probably be at least a few hours at the casino in Calgary, the Grey Eagle Casino. It's the end of April, and we're going to go. I think we're going to go. We're probably going to have him in the studio here. I'm talking about it every week because I'd like to try and plug it for him because I love Nassim's work, and we love Jamie.
When I'm in studio.
And he is going to be talking about the unified field theory of Nassim Harriman, and it's fucking mind-blowing.
Then we're going to have him in studio after.
I hope so, yeah. And we just cleaned up the studio. We're reorganizing it. We're doing video now a little bit. Actually, we should talk about that. We could talk about it now. It's probably a good time as any.
Let's get into the poll first. I
Okay,
played the
all
fucking
right.
jingle.
Okay, all right, let's do it. Whatever you want.
Okay, so the jingle
boss.
was... What?
Go ahead.
I like that. A nice ring to it. This week's poll question: do you support any podcasts? We had 192 votes. Yes, I'm a supporter, 52%.
Wow.
Not yet, but I will be, 22%.
Wow,
So
that's a good
3/4
answer.
of the answer. No, why would I be? 17%. And other, list below, 9%.
And then there's a list of others?
Yeah, we got I'm a poor as fuck single dad.
Are those predefined lists, or is that other people?
Others. Would I pony up? This is from Kevin, the UK Prince. Would I pony up if I could? Of course I would. I feel like I've been freeloading the second best podcast in the universe with the best intentions since day one. The original UK posse.
Nice. The OK.
Yes.
See the OG, the OK?
Yeah.
The OU.
Whatever. Yeah, but only one without ads. I'm adding a Patreon link to mine. I'll be paying for the music I use and giving away trips when I can afford to. Got to become financially unsucky first. Oh, from our buddy Salvatore. The way I look at it, we can all afford $1 a month, and together as a collective, that dollar becomes more. It becomes energy and intention supporting an institution doing meaningful and necessary work, waking people up. When you become part of something like that, it raises your frequency. Agreed. That's why I support Grimerica with my Canadian pesos, which is value for value, unlike the others I subscribe to from that other country. I support 3 podcasts. Grimerica is one. I'm broke. I used to slip a few bucks here and there. Then someone said, eat a dick. I said, Richard Parker. You remember all that?
That's funny. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good response.
I had the hashtag Richard Parker going for a while.
Really? Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was the
seems like there's a
outro.
Richard Parker that's in real danger.
We were talking about that in the outro of the Synchronicity episode with Trish and Rob, I think, right?
I think that Kevin Stevens thinks it's something else. Because he's like 5:50 a.m. and I've had my first Richard Parker of the day. And then he tweeted later, "Been a long day. I'm well and truly Richard Parkered." Maybe his wife had a Richard Parker. Started to start her day, but I don't think Kev did. I hope he didn't, buddy.
I hope not.
Listen back and really get the context of what Richard Parker is.
Yeah.
Before you go throwing stuff like that around. Anyway, yeah, that's the poll result. Might as well go into the thing. Well, we'll go into your video thing first because the video thing wouldn't have been possible without the supporters.
Yep.
I mean, it's still a little choppy, but it's definitely getting there. Brody's a big help, huge help. We're using that computer that we were able to crowdfund last year when we did the raffle that Nikki the Dude won. And yeah. So, I mean, it could still use some work, but it costs money that never would have happened without the supporters.
Yeah, for sure. But explain what we're doing then. So we got a couple cameras in the studio, and we're going to record. Like, nothing's going to change on the audio side.
No,
podcast out completely as normal.
Brody's just going to video it.
So video of the guests, maybe some presentations, maybe some pictures, maybe some
if there's that, and if not, he's just got cameras around the studio and he's going to make videos of everything. Just because strictly for the YouTube. So basically, the podcast is just going to go into video format for people that there's this whole YouTube audience, I guess, that doesn't really listen to podcasts and won't watch a picture. So we'll see. We'll try it out for a few months and see how it goes. We've had a ton of people pushing us in this direction for a long time. So we feel it's time to give it a whirl. We'll give it a whirl. It's been fun so far. But yeah, that's over at grimerica.ca/live. Whenever we go live, we're kind of throwing it out on social media. It's usually going to be Wednesday nights. The big ones will really pump up. The big live shows are going to be the ones where we are having guests on that are going to end up in the Black Budget support feed eventually. And those shows will do live. So if you're not a supporter for those people, they'll be able to come in and tune in live and listen to that.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah.
So that's probably going to be the main reason,
Did you mention the subscribing to get that notice of the live one then? Or even the newsletter?
Well, that's a good reason to head over to grimerica.ca/news and sign up for the newsletter because we haven't told Justin yet. Hopefully we'll tell him before he listens to this. But we're going to have him start sending out I'll get him to show me how to log in or whatever. Yeah, we'll do it. So that we can start sending out a newsletter basically, the day before, 12 hours before we go live. Probably 12 hours in the morning or something. I have it go out in the morning.
I don't know what.
We're live tonight. I don't know how we've got the time. We don't know. We're still fucking learning, but signing up for the newsletter isn't going to hurt.
It's hard to know if we should just send it out like as we go live, like email saying we are live now, if that'll catch more people than trying to say, and we don't have that many people sign up to the newsletter, but that is a way that we can get a hold of people. That is the way that we can get a hold of people. Or if it's like 12 hours or 24 hours notice, who knows what the best thing is. I mean, maybe we can try it for a while and see what kind of feedback there is.
That's right. We'll see how it goes. But signing up for the newsletter is just another way to get notified when we're doing those sorts of things. We are rolling back from Tuesdays to Wednesdays as we head into April. So, any of those will be on Wednesday nights. Usually is when those live streams are going to be most of the time. That being said, I think the next one's on Tuesday, but yeah, check that out. And of course, if you want to support the show and help us keep growing and doing these fun things and getting the extra content as well, head over to grimerica.ca/support. There's about 700 hours of content, almost 300 episodes out there now, all for free. And we're going to keep pumping these out, one a week or two a week like we did this week for free. And of course, we are doing a show or two a month for the Black Budget. And the only way to get that is you can do a one-time donation of any amount, gets you in. Ideally, you sign up for a subscription, and that gets you in as well. That can even be as low as $1 a month. If everyone signed up for $1 a month, that was all anyone have to sign up for. But, it's
if everyone signed up for $5 a month, it'd be fantastic. We could cover our expenses, pay off some debts.
That's right.
And, and upgrade some stuff here.
That's right. Move out of the garage.
That would be fun.
It's flooded as fuck right now.
It's full of ice. It's like a fucking skating rink.
It's flooded and then
the Igloo's got a skating rink right outside the door.
The driveway's so slanted. Yeah, that's the problem. Is the driveway's so slanted, everything melts, comes in. It's a good thing the studio's raised up 4 inches.
Yeah.
Fuck, could you imagine?
Yeah. And then, eventually, we'd like to go to more conferences and stuff as well. That'd be fun.
And I want a cloud lifter.
What's that again?
It's a new sort of preamps that are out. They're sexy.
Why they call them cloud lifters? That sounds like a extreme weather modification program.
Well, it just bumps our mic up a little cleaner. It's a new tech.
Is it Orgon technology?
I don't know. You don't have to be quite that close to the mic.
Is it Orgon technology?
You just said the same thing at the same distance from the mic again. I don't know if it is, but I'm going to take this Oregon
Cloudbuster? I've got a Cloudbuster on my screensaver. That's a Cloudbuster.
That's
is that like
passcode.
that? Is that your
What's
new...
your passcode?
Oh. No, that doesn't work.
No. That's a Cloudbuster?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Who made that?
That's from the...
Do you pedal it?
That's from Kate Bush's video.
Oh. Would you take a screenshot and made it your background?
Yeah.
You are such a dork. Did you know you can get ones that move? That you can touch and move, or you touch and hold and they move around or something?
What's that? Cloudbusters?
No, like back screens.
No, screensavers, no.
Yeah.
I don't really care about that.
Seems like you do. You took a screenshot out of a fucking video. That's a lot of work, bro.
No, it wasn't out of a video. I don't know. It's I don't know where I found it, but I think that's where it's from. Okay, I'll clarify. It's not a screenshot of the fucking awesome 1985 music video that was like a movie.
Okay. So,
with Donald Sutherland playing the bad guy, or playing the inventor of
was
the
that Kiefer
Cloudbuster.
Sutherland's dad?
Yeah.
Huh.
And Kate Bush playing a little boy that was his son, you know. It's
Interesting.
That was like a life-changing video, man.
Seems like it. A life-changing music video. Wow, there are too many of those. Maybe Thriller? Could be.
It was around the same time frame. There, people were getting pretty creative with stuff.
Think?
The 80s was awesome.
Sounds awesome.
Synchronicity, it's time for another installment of the Canadian Third Party Synchronicity Rating Authority.
I don't think I've read this one yet. This is from Andy. He says,
Christ, you don't know the
hi.
system?
Oh, this is funny. He says, hi, Graham, and then hi, Darren, with
And G and an H.
Yeah.
Clever.
I've been listening to Grimerica in either podcast or YouTube ever since I heard Randall Carlson on the Joe Rogan podcast. A quick search on iTunes for Carlson led me to your content. I should mention, actually, it is fun to hear how people found the show. That's very interesting. That's our only market research, actually.
That's right.
Not our only market research, but pretty much. That spring of 2017, I've been a fan ever since. Before listening to Grimerica, I had never before entertained the idea of synchronicities. I'd find myself just passing them off as mere coincidences, if even noticing them at all. I have now found myself becoming more aware of synchronicities, and I think this may have something to do with your show and listening to those of others. One major synchronicity of recent was this past fall 2017. My fiance and I are having a house built. In speaking with the house builder's sales manager, we had learned that the owner of the neighborhood plot was a scaffolder who, like me, works between several different refineries north of our city. The manager gave me his name in case I ever ran into him. Thinking that it was more likely that I'd find a needle in a haystack, I'd soon but forgotten about this and ended up taking the job at one of the major refineries a few weeks later. On my first night after the company's site orientation, my crew and I were setting up to work off some scaffolding. No big deal. Before you climb, you have to read and follow all safety conditions and avoid identified hazards listed on the safety tags located on access ladder. I turn the tag.
Access ladder?
What?
The access ladder.
I turned the tag over, and to my shock, there was my soon-to-be neighbor's name, as he was the general foreman who authorized the tag. One of the refineries and all of the miles of scaffolding and all the areas in this plant and all the contractors here, there's his name, and it isn't a common one either. Too much for a mere coincidence. I hope this finds you and the fellow listeners in good health. Thanks for all the content. It certainly makes Makes the drive up north 500 kilometers go by faster. Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Wow, I wonder, hopefully the scaffold is built well.
Yeah.
I'll rate it a 6.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it was.
It reminds me of when I was working in a aircraft overhaul maintenance facility. We were working with Pratt & Whitney parts. And my family actually, like my Nana and my mom and dad worked for Pratt & Whitney way back in the 70s, it would have been.
Really?
And I found a tag that was so old on a part that was so old that my Nana wrote the tag.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah. I noticed her writing and everything. It was like one of the, like those parts were for the same engine there. Some parts just didn't change and they were around for decades.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Big thanks to Johnny V.
Oh.
Sent us some swag. He sent us some swag.
Yeah, we got it already. Got a
we
t-shirt.
got a shirt. I got a shirt that says I got stoned with Bigfoot. Graham got some
That's
socks.
your shirt, obviously, and I got some Bigfoot socks, and my socks are hanging in.
Socks? Did you check?
No, they're new.
Just still stuck something in there.
No, they're new socks. I'm not even going to wear them. So they're hanging up in the studio right now.
You're not going to wear them?
And Darren's shirt, I'm sure Darren's shirt, it's got like a Bigfoot sneaking around a tree with a doobie in his mouth.
A redwood, I bet.
And that's going to be on Darren, obviously, in the next video, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Save it.
I'll leave it in here so I can wear it in case I forget to wear a shirt one day.
Cool shirt, yeah. In case you have your fucking robe on for the video.
Fucking robe. And I got all those. I got 10 fucking swag envelopes.
Did I tell you the robe joke?
So this is like right here. It's like $40 fucking in postage.
You're sending out for the Wednesday subscriber gimmick. You're sending out magnets, Grimerica magnets, to a bunch of people that subscribe on Wednesday.
Don't call my shticks gimmicks. Yeah, I send a little thing I started to try and drum up some support since we still are only at like 101.50, like I'd said a little earlier. So, support the show any day. But if you do support the show on a Wednesday, if you sign up for a recurring subscription, then we send you out a couple of magnets and a sticker.
Do you want to hear my joke?
I waited so long that now I have fucking 10 of them. A couple ones going to fucking New Zealand. It was like $7.
Do you want to go? Do you want to hear my joke about a robe?
Yeah, you seem eager.
So this door salesman comes up to this door and he knocks on the door, and this little kid opens up. He's about 9 years old and he's wearing a smoking jacket, like this long robe, and he's got a cigar in one hand and a glass of brandy in the other one. And the salesman says, "Oh, hi, son. Is your parents home?" And the kid says, "What the fuck do you think?"
I think you actually told that joke on the show before.
Really? I don't know why I just found that so funny, but now when I tell it just sucks.
Yeah, it was good when you were like, what? I don't know. It was good maybe the first time. I don't know. That joke is not aged well.
No.
And I think you've told it on the show maybe twice.
No.
You tell it every fucking
100
episodes. Huh. Yeah, 300's coming up, eh? 5-year anniversary too.
Yep.
It's coming up right around June 1st. We've been doing the show for 5 years. So that's coming. The 300th show is coming. Be exciting summer. Exciting summer, motherfuckers. Got anything else? I think we'll leave it at that. You don't get to see the time anymore. We're a little short, but
I got an advertisement coming out for 6 Nights Under the Stars with Dr. Stephen Greer in Arizona, and I was going to read that to you if you're interested.
You're going to read Stephen Greer's fucking advertisements on the show without advertising?
I thought you might get a kick out of it's got a whole bunch of what you will learn.
Okay, go.
At this, should I? So. What are you doing? You're not playing the outro music in the middle of my... No, you can't play that. No, I'm not reading it to that. I can't. I hate that fucking song. I appreciate the lyrics that you wrote for it, but I've always hated that tune.
I know.
Ever since that show was on in the early 90s.
That's why I wrote it. When I was writing it, I knew you would hate it.
So, this week-long intensive is limited to 25 registrants and provides for an intensive training program with Dr. Greer.
How much is it?
It is also a true expedition where I don't know I don't know yet. Where each night we will go out under the stars for 4 to 5 hours to make contact using the very effective CE5 contact protocols. Now, just for the listeners that haven't heard, we do this up here ourselves with results. Seeing stuff. During this intensive program, you will learn how to make contact with ET civilizations using the CE5 protocols and how to really become an ambassador to the universe. How to make the advanced training in mantra meditation, advanced techniques in remote viewing, precognition, and the science of consciousness. The effects of the Sanskrit puja as we make sacred the place for contact using this ancient Vedic ceremony. An update on worldwide disclosure project developments by Dr. Greer and the progress being made with leaders around the world. An in-depth review of new energy technologies, including free energy from the zero-point field, anti-gravity, and how the world can be transformed with these new sciences.
How much?
A deep understanding of the next great cycle on Earth, one of universal peace, free energy, abundance, and enlightenment through higher states of consciousness. How to set up your own contact team in your local area to continue to make contact with ET visitors to Earth. And first-hand accounts from the making of Unacknowledged, the book and film from Dr. Greer.
How much? All for the low price.
This event will be held at a retreat center, 45 minutes from Tucson. Participants so enjoyed the field work, which is quiet, dark, and private, and are happy to be going back. We have signed up, free. Okay, the fees include tuition. What?
Next, nothing.
6 nights lodging, group dinner on Sunday night, midday meal and dinner Monday through Friday, simple breakfast on Saturday before leaving. Each room has its own private bathroom.
Ooh.
Please read about
almost like a hotel.
Please read about guidelines and rules, description and schedule, materials to study before you go. We may be filming at this retreat for our next documentary. This means that you must sign a film release. You may or may not be in the film. It might just be the back of your head.
Hopefully not the back of your head.
It might just be your camel toe.
Oh, what?
Just kidding.
Oh, boy.
Getting
some more emails.
However,
sexist.
I was thinking of a guy.
That's a moose knuckle.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. However, so that you are prepared, we'll be asking that once you have paid to send back a signed release within 2 weeks, If you want, here, it does have the price. If you want to participate, please sign up here. Tuition, room and board for the 6 nights is $35.75 per person. That's not too bad.
How many people?
25 people.
Hey, Google, what's 35.75 times 25?
The answer is 89,375.
That's pretty
What's
good.
89,000 US to Canadian?
Oh, she's already stopped answering. You got to say Google.
Hey, Google, what's 89,000 US dollars in Canadian?
89,000 United States dollars is approximately 114,753 Canadian dollars and 93 cents.
Approximately? So it's not approximately if you're exact.
Fluctuates daily.
Anyway, so that's not too bad. I mean, it's not as bad as people say. 3,500 for a week. I mean, what if he only does it a couple times a year and he's invested years upon years of
how many nights?
Putting research into
4
disclosure.
nights?
6 nights. I think.
6 nights?
6 nights.
So he's working a week and making $100,000.
Well, no, he's got to pay for all the expenses and lodging and all that.
I'd like to see some pictures of all that lodging.
I don't know. I don't care
Go to
what
it.
he charges.
We just got to send you to one of them.
Fuck,
Eventually,
it doesn't matter to me.
we're just going to send you to one of them, and I just want to report back what the conditions are like. You're going to come back like fucking 10 pounds thinner.
No, I'm going to go to the East City Ranch this summer, I think. Anyways, for a weekend.
Is that the other guys, or is that?
No, it's not really. It's just a different. It's like the Skinwalker Ranch, the East City Ranch. There's a bunch of stuff that happens there. Tons of people have experiences. UFO sightings at UFOs are coming out of Mount Shasta, I think it is, or no, Mount Hood. No, yes, I don't even remember.
There you have it.
One of those. So maybe we'll do that. But I mean, honestly, that's I don't know. I don't care what he charges. He's put decades of stuff. I feel like I need to defend the guy a little bit because everybody gets pissed off at his ego and all that. But, he's the one that's put a lot of work in over the decades. And whether it's true or not, he's made a lot of headway in the disclosure movement. So
You do a good job of defending them. I'll give you that. All right, guys. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed this bonus episode.
Oh,
Another
that's right.
extra ep,
Yeah, that's
2 weeks in
in
a
the
row
free
with 2
feed.
eps.
Really?
In the free feed.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so, yeah. Sign up for the support. Get even more. Anyway, fuck all that. Get you some good vibes. This is coming out probably Sunday. You could probably use some good vibes. Help you get through that week. Where's the motherfucking...
If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Sending out good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
All right, tonight we've got Gian Quasar with us. He's an independent investigator. He's been investigating and writing about all kinds of strange stuff, like actually the Bermuda Triangle. He's rekindled that mystery over the years, like for many years. UFOs, cryptids like Sasquatch, but also a lot of true crime stuff, like uncovering some of the most dangerous serial killers and rapists in North America. He's probably one of these guys that's like, as far as the occult and UFO type stuff goes, he probably pisses off both sides because he's very evidence-based and scientific. Yet he also, he'll also admit that there's some strange stuff going on. So it's really good to have you here. He's got his website, thequesterfiles.com, which has got all his work there. So thanks for coming on the show, John.
That was a nice introduction.
Oh.
No one ever qualified that I tee off both sides.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I heard you on the Banal report, and
yeah, I always have to qualify that I'm not out there, in the cottage industry. I'm like everybody else. I was curious about this stuff, so I just subjected it to real investigation to see where the truth is, and where I can establish real mystery. I'll say there's something very odd there. Where it isn't, I'll say where it is.
Exactly.
It's not no real mystery.
Yeah, well,
I just don't type in capital letters and get rude and nasty with people.
Exactly. We try and do that here too. We try not to get dogmatic about this paradigm or that paradigm. I mean, a lot of times we don't have the answers, and a lot of our guests don't have the answers either, but we know that there's something strange going on, and we just like to investigate it. Not that it's all about the journey, but we do like to just look at all the different things and even speculate sometimes. So that's good.
Yes, so the people enjoy mystery, but I think most people really enjoy trying to crack one. They want a sincere effort to try and solve it instead of just constantly, rehashing it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, no, the mystery, that's how we learn. Mystery is an invitation to look and learn. It means we don't know something.
Yeah. I mean,
Einstein said, look for mysteries, enjoy them, teach your kids about them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we just had a listener email us in about that Einstein quote about the imagination being more important than intelligence or something like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He always said he wasn't a philosopher, but he really was, because he thought his theories out first, and then he imagined his theory of relativity. He sat there and imagined all this, and then worked it out mathematically to see if it was true, and discovered so much by doing that. You have to think this out first to discover it. Anything you can imagine, you can bring about.
Oh my God, I just said that to a bunch of friends last night. My dad told me that way back when. He's like, anything you can imagine can happen. Like, or if you can, whatever you can imagine can be possible, kind of thing. And that's where it starts.
Very true.
Right? Yeah. Wow. A little bit of a synchronicity there. And And what was I going to say about that too? Oh yeah, the relaxation response. I mean, how many of these scientists and these inventors and all this have had their epiphanies in the shower or napping? I mean, when things open up and they've, and then they start.
They keep thinking, they keep dwelling on it. You have to keep cycling it and to come up with every angle of it. I was told recently, very much from an authoritative source, about one crime scene where the poodle was found in the swimming pool. And I don't know how it got there. I never really speculated that much about it. And the detective told me that if this was the perp that they think it was, he, would silence dogs if he was yipping and he's trying to break into the house. He'd throw the dog in the pool to keep him quiet.
Yeah.
And
he's
that's where the murder
swimming.
occurred, in the yard. And so the murder occurred in that yard, and it fits. Why else would a little poodle be in the pool at a murder scene?
Yeah.
And this is committed by a guy that they believe was the number one prowler and break-in stalker around the area. So it does make sense, but never dawned on me. But a lot of guys think this out. You have to reenact. That's the whole basis of the French method of criminology, reenactment. Who's capable? Who explain every little clue by reenactment.
I mean, you've done that with some of these true crime guys, right? You've been around the neighborhoods and you've followed the circuit. I mean, but before we get into that, the real scary part, let's touch on. And I know you've probably done this to death, but the Bermuda Triangle, like I've one of these
the X-Files type of stuff.
Yeah, I've thought that was kind of a done deal for quite a while, but you really made a name for yourself and for that again by you came up with another book, the Bermuda Triangle 2. So can we just touch? I know you've talked about it a lot, but can we just touch on it for a little bit, just for people to know that there is still a mystery there, and maybe just sort of just summarize that a little bit.
That will never leave my reputation. Actually, my name, however you pronounce it, is associated with that topic now. And for 18 years, I'm the one that brought it back. Actually, 19 years ago, 1999, I got on the web.
What's funny?
And it had been dead for 20 years. And all these little, new websites were up as the web was young. And people were bashing the whole idea based upon an old 25-year-old book that claimed it solved it. And I had been investigating it since 1990 on my own. And, of course, back then you didn't have any outlet like the web. And so when I saw all this rot on the web, I decided to put up my rather massive investigation. And I was slammed within the first week. In March of 1999, I was number one on all the old search engines, Alta Vista, all those things. And it wasn't long before TV started coming to me asking me for all my input. And I don't know how many documentaries I've done. It was just enormous fallout of publicity because I was the only one who investigated objectively for the last 25 years and was still objective about it. I added, 75 or more mysteries that no one heard about to my first book that McGraw-Hill published really quick in 2003. And there's so many on my site, and then now my sequel that just came out last year. So I keep showing people all that goes on, and I just want them to understand it's a real life adventure and mystery. It's not something I don't know how to define paranormal to people. I shy away from that
term
title because people have corrupted it to mean a bunch of supernatural stuff you can never solve. And why try and investigate something if you can't solve it?
Yeah.
It's
We're
interesting.
talking about real ships and planes that vanished that had people, and some of the circumstances are very documented. I even have the Mayday call from a pilot panicking over a weird object harassing his aircraft off Puerto Rico, and that's up on YouTube. And
what's
so I have to
interesting
admit, pattern that there is mystery out there. There's an awful lot of it.
We've often talked about how we got into this field, and now that I think about it, the Bermuda Triangle was the first thing that I was ever into when I was a kid. And I remember when I was a kid, probably 9 or 10, having sleepovers at my next door neighbor's house, and he was into it. He had seen it on Unsolved Mysteries or something. I bet you he's seen you on something, because this would have
I've been on all of it. So,
yeah, and I remember I mean, I think he was talking about how we had lowered down all these cables. I don't know how much my buddy was portraying to me was true. He seemed like maybe he was stretching the truth a bit, like. But I remember him telling me about it, and then I was kind of hooked on it. I remember even like reading a couple little books on it about planes thinking they were in tunnels, weird like cloud tunnels and things like that. I remember like going down.
Oh yes, no, I know a pilot who went through that. Bruce Kernan, he described that in detail. It's in my book. He even wrote a book on his own experience as well, with a horizontal, almost like flying through a horizontal tornado, and he had 2 witnesses with him, and there's one scientist with the University of Nebraska that believes the story and uses it, trying to backwork a method of propulsion. There's lots of stories. All my book, all my incidents are not based on old newspapers or magazine articles. They're based on reports of the National Transportation Safety Board. Like I told you, there's a weird one where I have the transcription, and then I got the FAA copy of the audio of the Mayday basically panicking over a UFO, and the plane then vanished. There's aircraft that vanished on radar coming in for a landing, and one case in the book where it was actually almost witnessed by the plane coming in behind it, and it just vanished. There was nothing. There was a cargo flight, and the pilots of the plane that were following it coming in for landing looked down to see if there had been an impact, and there was absolutely nothing. And at that same airport, a few years later, another aircraft vanished when the air traffic controller was watching it. He shifted his glance, watching the landing light of his aircraft coming in for a landing, to the radar scope. And just a moment before the radar scope had shown 2 blips, one aircraft taking off, this one coming in. He looked at the radar scope and it showed only 1 blip, so he looked right back out the window. And the aircraft that had been coming in for landing was gone. The landing light was gone. And there was never a trace. There was no ELT signal, which is an acronym for Emergency Locator Transmitter. It should jettison from the aircraft upon impact and send an electronic signal that can be picked up by the base station, by satellites, by passing aircraft. And I think about 120 aircraft that I have investigated had that device, had that capability, and one has never been signaled. And then you get odd things out. The newer stuff that I talk about in my sequel, such as you get some kind of pattern like off the west coast of Florida where people are either vanishing off their boat, or then down further there was an EPIRB signal, which is the equivalent on a boat, down by the Keys, and it was picked up shortly, and then it stopped, and the boat was then later found abandoned, floating with the guy at the end of a lifeline. And how it was turned on, how the EPIRB was turned on and turned off, is not known, except that something must have really shaken his boat, gotten water on it, then it will signal and knocked him over. And I trace this line, kind of like Jaws, in the movie Jaws, where you see the predator strikes and something's moving around, see its territoriality. And you can almost do that off the west coast of Florida with boating accidents, people missing as though they were knocked off their boats. One boat was, you would almost think it was shaken around into a tornado and thrown back down. The 2 people that must have been on top were gone. The boat drifted around Florida, and the body of the other one was found inside, and his spine had been cut in half, and no one knows how that happened. So one gets into some pretty grisly stuff that's not all this la-la land. You know, people with their crystals and little
hey, there's nothing wrong with crystals.
Telepathic communication with aliens and talkative dolphins and all that. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. There's one very interesting case where 2 guys were on a very nice luxury motor sailor, and the guy who owned it was not an adept sailor, so he hired a very good sailor to pilot the boat for him, and they were taking it to Florida. And off Florida somewhere, it was off, still north of St. Petersburg. They were heading south, and the owner of the boat went down south. It went down into the cabin to check something, and the other guy was at the wheel. He comes back up moments later, and the guy's gone. And he had vanished from the boat. There was no one at sea, and the Coast Guard did an extensive search for days looking for this guy, and he just had vanished from the boat. Well, the other guy was down below.
And a lot of these are recent, fairly recent.
Oh, yes. In the recent book, yes. I deal with mostly everything I left off with in 2003, so we're talking about this century.
Wow, that's crazy.
I recap all the old stuff to put it in perspective. It's not in the details that... And then I go back to older ones that did not get included or I found later. So there are some very old classic cases from the 40s or even older.
Yeah. I think one of
the newer ones are the most interesting because you can get into a lot of details. And you just don't, there's just not this little short blip. Well, it left this port and bound for this port. It was fair weather and it never arrived and everybody's gone. You really can't do much with that.
Right. Now you've got more
Unfortunately, that's the truth of so many cases.
Do you have a before we transition off of the triangle, do you have like a favorite case or any sort of theories you've come up with over? Because you've got to be one of the most, definitely in our community anyway, because I mean, I don't want to hear what the scientists have to say. I'd much rather hear what, you've come up with after 15 or 20 years of looking into it. Especially when you said 1999 on the internet, it was interesting because that's when Ephraim was doing his Mars work on the internet. And these are the guys that, 20 years later are starting to be proven right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was very careful in my research. It was all, I had like a 30-page bibliography in the book. And that's what impressed McGraw-Hill so much that I went and got everything official on this. Remember, I started 1990 and I didn't really go public with it until 1999, so you can imagine what I had amassed. And only a fraction was on the website. It still is. So favorite cases, I have many favorite cases. There's probably too many to name. That UFO case is interesting. The two cases where the pilots, where the planes basically vanished coming for a landing. There are the NC-16002 is one of the most famous cases. That's the DC-3 fully loaded with passengers in 1948 that vanished coming in for a landing at Miami Airport. That's one of the most famous aerial disappearances there is. And I'd really love to go try and look for that. But so far I've not been able to do that because it's back work that you just cannot imagine how they did not see the lights of Miami. How a big DC-3 with 30 people aboard could vanish and not a trace was ever found.
Yeah, wow.
That's kind of reminds me of, I remember one where there was 5 planes and it was sort of the same sort of idea where they should have been like right there.
Flight 19.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I wrote a whole book on that one. That was my second book.
Now, do you agree with because I think what they came up with in the end was they figured that was, they blamed the lead pilot, didn't they?
No, well, they did, yes, but there was an awful lot involved in that case, and I basically could trace it to the Okefenokee Swamp in southern Georgia. And so a lot of controversy comes into play there. That's why I had to devote an entire book to that incident alone. They flew into oblivion. That's close to 300 pages of the entire mystery and all that I had to do. I even went out in the swamp looking. It was one of the first TV shows. History Channel wanted to come out there and follow me. It's a federally protected swamp, so I couldn't go out except in certain areas. But I found all these old reports of 5 unidentified aircraft being seen in that area that night.
Oh, really? Eh?
And one report was dismissed because they thought, well, they had to be out of gas, but at that time, around 9 o'clock, but they never did explain what those 5 aircraft were. And even a radar report from one of the ships looking was able to trace 4 to 6 aircraft coming in the coast around Flagler Beach, which is where if you know the winds that were aloft and the flight's courses where they would have come into Florida. And so I could really quite easily connect those dots. And when you read the proceedings of the Board of Inquiry, you see that the board was asking these search and rescue officers, were these reports followed through? What was the disposition of these reports? And the officer would reply, we determined these were negative reports. And they said, how did you do that? And they said, basically the planes never came in for landing.
Yeah. Which kind of smacks of a bit of a cover-up. Do you think there's been, I got a couple questions before we move off. Like there's one of them is sort of like the overarching cover up, whether it's intentional or not, whether they're just covering their ass about something. And then also about USOs, like unidentified submersible objects, like one of the most underrated parts of the UFO mystery. Like we had this guy on talking about orange orbs, and he went through years of orange orb sightings and collated all the data. And they came, and he noticed patterns of these orbs. Like a lot of them were coming from Catalina, in the sea near Catalina Island in California. And then I think there was another, what he called like an underground base area near Florida as well. And there was 3 main spots where, if you were to look at all the data and all the flight patterns of these orbs, they're coming from underground bases in the water, it would seem. So is there any
USOs are frequently seen out there. They have nothing to do with Flight 19. Guys covering their backside.
But in general, though? Or?
But yes, there are USOs that have been reported out there many times. And I even had to touch on the very not so popular Russian data that was finally released by the Russian Navy about all their encounters while they were stalking around out there off Cuba. And all their data shows that most UFOs are sighted with water, and 44% of all those in the world are sighted in the Atlantic.
Wow.
And there's a lot of detailed reports. You can almost spot about how they travel around, whatever they are. I'm not necessarily endorsing the alien abduction theory, but there are some very reliable reports from pilots and shipmasters, and even in the records when the Air Force was investigating those, that show patterns, flight patterns, and they are very frequently coming into the coast of the U.S. from that area of the Atlantic. I dealt with that heavily. I guess that's why there's so much more interest in that kind of stuff lately. I was offered my own television series twice last year. One is still in the offering, I think. And there's a couple more shows. In Search of is being brought back. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Leonard Nimoy, of course, is gone, but they're getting...
the new guy.
Yeah, Zachary Quinto.
Is he the new Spock?
Yes, he's going to host it, I'm told. And then Ancient Aliens wants to do another episode, and the Cousteaus might get their own television series, and they might be doing an episode.
Oh, that's great.
Doc's son and grandson.
Have they done much diving there?
I would say so, yeah. They know the area pretty well.
Because isn't there a road right there, too? Is that where that road to... What's that? Where they found the 2 rows of rocks under the sea?
The Bimini Road?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Everybody dives off that. That's only in 18 feet of water.
Yeah, is that in the triangle, or is that outside of it?
Yes, that's quite in the hot spot of the triangle. Bimini Island is a center for an awful lot of travel. It's a port of entry into the Bahamas, and then a lot disappears around Bimini or is flying to or from it.
Huh. So do you have any overarching theories about what's going on? I mean, I
do believe in the electromagnetic anomalies. I've investigated long enough to find out that these vortices, electromagnetic vortices, are quite real, and I think a lot of things come into play. Out there was the Canadian investigation, one of your countrymen, Wilbert Smith. I'm sure you know that name.
Yep.
His Project Magnet, he found that these areas of reduced binding were more frequent in the tropic areas like the Triangle. And it would explain a lot. I try and weave it together in my most recent book, but it could explain an awful lot of the transient magnetic problems out there. Shipmasters are very familiar with those with moments in which the compass does not point where it should be. And they will joke and say it's the Bermuda Triangle, but it's common enough. It doesn't get too much notice in the press, perhaps because the shipmasters are used to steering by point of sight in the Bahamas, and they don't look at their compass as much as someone traveling through would. And so perhaps it's not noticed as much by the locals, but frequently enough, they will say they have seen it, and where the compass will spin or simply point in a totally wrong direction, and it's transient. It's not a wreck underneath. It's it comes and goes.
So the electromagnetic anomalies, is there any chance that's man-made, or are you thinking natural?
I think natural. I don't think it's man-made.
Isn't there some underground bases? Some underground bases over there, like Odd Tech? That don't they?
Awtec's not underground, but it does do an awful lot of undersea testing in the tongue of the ocean, which is a very deep gorge in the Great Bahama Bank.
Is that close to the triangle?
That's right, in the heart of the triangle.
So what's going on there?
Everything in the Bahamas is in the heart of the triangle.
My favorite one, I think, that I've seen over the years has been the methane explanation, that it's like little pockets underneath the ocean releasing methane, which makes the water not buoyant or the air not buoyant.
There's nothing to it. The guy that came up with that in Leeds, England, was later dubbed Dr. Philetus for it.
Dr. Philetus. Oh, ouch.
It was the ocean flatulence theory. It's pulled out every time on every documentary. It's absurd.
Really?
There's been rigs that have drilled into methane beds by accident. In one case, the drill sank, but there were news helicopters flying over taking pictures of it all, and they didn't experience any kind of problems.
Oh, it doesn't.
So it's not going to do anything to an aircraft, and for a moving ship, unlike a rig, I mean, it has to be an enormous burst of ethane at the precise time the boat is going over it. Now, what's the mathematic probability of that? And then you're talking about all these hundreds of boats were caused by that.
Well, now I don't feel so good about that theory.
I think there's a more sinister explanation, but I won't get into it.
Other than
still
UFOs?
A mystery. It's one mystery I have not cracked because it's so multifactorial. There's so many ships and planes missing. You cannot say that the same thing was responsible for all of them.
Is it still happening?
Oh, yes.
Because that's the other thing is you kind of hear about these old cases, but you don't see it in the news anymore.
Well, that's kind of why I asked about the cover up, because why isn't this still a big mystery in the news? I mean,
people aren't traveling like they used to. The 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s was still the golden age of the middle class, and people traveled more. They're weekend wing flyers. They had to have their boats. Florida is suffering under all these abandoned boats because the economy went so bad. And they're just lying derelict in all these coves or sinking at anchor. People simply aren't traveling out there as much anymore, so it's a bit of a different statistics now. And you don't have the same number of aircraft vanishing as you used to. That's markedly changed.
So have you also delved into the UFO thing lately at all? Have you been following this supposed New York Times article about the government program and disclosure and all this stuff?
Oh, yes, I did. I don't remember all the details, but I do follow that quietly. The only time I will really unleash my information on it is with a book. That's not something I wish to deal with people on the web. I do have a lot of research, historical research, putting it all online, trying to come up with the best pattern that fits and explains everything. I rely upon the old Air Force reports and some scientific observations, such as Paul Hill's. I'm sure you know that name.
Yeah.
Paul Roy Hill. And that kind of stuff. But we all knew they were studying it because reports are still being made, and the classic reports are still there, and they get on the web, and people wonder, why wasn't this investigated better? And you find out that the Russians dumped all that information several years ago, 2009, I think. We even mentioned the Bermuda Triangle and all their encounters. So it's not surprising to me that they were investigating again. And then they admitted to that one pilot's encounter with one, and it's just the typical encounter. It's speeding around. It can go from the ocean to the sky. That's what all the Russians were saying, too. That's what Paul Hill was saying, how they had to be designed to go from the ocean to the sky. The earliest reports show that the saucers, as they were called, when Kehoe was talking about them in the late 40s and 50s, came into the coast from the Atlantic along very certain path lines. The 37th parallel that another author Mesrich made an awful lot out of.
Yep.
So there's a pattern that has to be finally put down into one thesis, and I will do that one day, but it's so much occult has gotten mixed with that people with their own little just turning, angels and demons into good aliens and bad aliens. And trying to, it's almost pseudo-religious now.
There does seem to be that spin on it for sure. I would tend to agree. It almost seems to be. It seems to be like it's going to morph into the religion of the future.
Well, it's hard not to because the consciousness is kind of involved in that. But
I'm still the old school, like the Kehoe's time. That these, if they do exist, they're heavier than air craft. They're interstellar or something, and they have to be plotted, and we have to come up with something rational about just what they really do look like, not these 100 different sizes and shapes, and try and plot what's going on. It's a very tangible mystery. You know the name Morris Jessup?
Yep.
He was the one who thought it was that it was a very insulated mystery, and he wanted to investigate it. He was the astronomer who wrote the book, UFOs, The Case for the UFOs, 1955.
Mm-hmm.
But then he spiraled into all this occult, into seance crowd and all this, and that's when he really began to get depressed and confused and got scorned by his peers. And you look at his work, he just spiraled into some of the most absurd stories that were more fit for the seance crowd rather than a scientific investigation of what should have been an insulated topic. It should be something purely of a tangible craft or not a tangible craft.
Yeah, but that's too...
And the most rational will keep it to that.
That's hard, though. I mean, one of our favorite guests, Grant Cameron, was like that for years, just researching the government documents and very nuts and bolts. And then he had a little bit of a synchronicity or epiphany, and then he went down that same road where he's, and more about consciousness and the spiritual aspect of it. I mean, it's hard not to go down there. It's not just, physics and nuts and bolts. It's really difficult to stay on that path, I think.
Well, I've always been scared of that path. I don't want to go down it. I want to stick to something that can be rationally observed and investigated. I don't know. I know some guys who are very negative about it, then had their own experience, and so they will believe in saucers, but they don't go down that path. I know one astronaut did.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Mitchell?
Yeah.
Edward Mitchell.
Edgar.
Yeah. Edgar?
Yeah.
Like Alan
Edgar,
Poe?
yeah.
Edward.
Whereas then the other one,
Buzz
who
Aldrin?
admitted he saw it. Yeah, no, not Buzz Aldrin.
He's a troublemaker.
Southern accent.
I can't remember.
Gordon Cooper.
Oh, Gordon Cooper, yeah.
He admits that they do exist. The one that landed and they filmed it at Muroc, or Edwards Air Force Base, as it was called then.
That's
and so that's more or less, what I encounter with people who remain serious about the subject. That they will become shocked and believe that they do exist, but they will keep it as a very tangible mystery, a very tangible object was seen. Nothing. None of this spiritual communication in the desert stuff. If you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. I try both.
He does. Ground does spiritual communication in the mountains. Because what happens when you do spirit communication and then you see something tangible, right? That's the rub. Is when I had a sighting in 1990, I looked up and said, "Please come back. I want to see you too," and it came back. I mean, that's. I'm not talking about that being a spiritual moment, but it was a craft flying through the sky that multiple people saw. And I mean, I'm not saying it appeared out of nowhere. I mean, I'm just the one that noticed it the next time. But I mean, there's all these instances of conscious contact in a way. So it's a tough one to tease apart.
Coincidence can be very beguiling.
Yeah, that's true.
I had a synchro today. A gun synchro.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it here, but it's interesting.
So what about Sasquatch? That comes up all the time on the show as well, because Darren, we have a legitimate difference in opinion of how he should be handled. She should be handled. I mean, I'm all for saving the Sasquatch if you ever come across it, and Darren would just shoot the thing. So you've also researched that.
I would not shoot. Well, my book Recasting Bigfoot was the controversy within there. I'm the most hated man in Bigfootery.
Bigfootery.
What do you wish to know about it?
Big fuckery. Would you take the shot?
I went back and I started at the beginning. I went back to the old Frontier accounts. I went back to J.W. Burns' first articles and what he said, and I synchronized them together. And you realize that Sasquatch, the Sasquatch George, as they are saying it, announcing it, the Indians, that was two tribes of hairy Indians in the mountains, one of which could speak something akin to the Douglas dialect. And so I trace, how did something like this become this Gigantopithecus of California, Bigfoot, and then start stomping around the whole North American continent? And that's why I was not too liked in recasting Bigfoot, because I endorsed the idea that there was a cryptid out there, but it's not what people, I said there's more than one species, and it's not what people think. There's humans involved. It's not this 8-9 foot tall ogre. The Indians are very clear that giant to them meant something 6.5 feet tall. And white man came along, heard the stories about giant hairy Indians, and to the much taller white men, they were giant meant 8-9 feet tall. And so it evolved in the white man's hands. But most of what's said out there has not been said by the Indians at all. It's been said by white men, and it has no resemblance to the Sasquatch of the Salis Indians and the Haisla Indians and all that.
So there's multiple.
Or the Skookum and all the. It's all. There's more than one species involved, and it's not what you're seeing in the Patterson film, and that's why people hated my guts, because I said the Patterson film wasn't real.
Well, what about all the contemporary sightings of a hairy guy like 7 or 8 feet tall, or bigger?
Well, what do you mean? From who?
Well, from all kinds, like hundreds of people, thousands of people. Like how? I mean, just thinking that maybe if he's not that big, I mean, are people just hallucinating, or I mean, how
are people even seeing him in the Pacific Northwest anymore, where Bigfoot was limited? Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Even John Green admitted that most of them don't even come. Most of the sightings don't come from there anymore. They come from all over the country and east of the Mississippi.
A lot of Florida lately.
He's breeding. So do you think that it's?
I endorsed Amaranthropus loisy.
I don't know what that means.
I thought I'd throw that out there.
Sounds Latin,
tell your listeners to get the book, Recasting Bigfoot, and they'll find out, because I went and looked at all the Indian artwork in stone, the rock heads of the Columbia Valley.
Yeah, I do like how you
river.
I like how you put all that together for sure.
Oh, you read it?
No, I listened to you on another show.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you were not going to go buy it then. No,
I might. It would be nice. It would be nice.
I did all that, and to show how it resembles that controversial photo of Francois Deloy from South America, and I looked into all these old reports, and there's the Mayan artwork, there's all sorts of stuff that indicate that we're actually dealing with a Native American anthropoid, not this old worn-out legend of Gigantopithecus crossing the Bering Land Strait and coming down through Canada and into California. And that's otherwise it's the other direction. They're coming up from South America along the mountain range, the Sierras, and they're coming up into Canada, where they meet, I think, another old world species head on. So I believed in more than one species, and that the majority that the sightings probably are the American one, and it's what the Indians would call the Desonoquah, which is a totally different thing. The Bigfooters said Desonoquah and Bigfoot are the same thing, that these Indian totems, masks of Desonoquah, the howling, whistling thing, are proof of Bigfoot, because some of them have a very ape-like appearance. But they have their appearance to the creature that Francois Deloy shot in 1917 in South America, and it was an anthropoid version, for lack of a better word, of the spider monkey, and it was about 5 feet tall. And that's what Desonoquah, even the big suit, the Hami suit of the Koskimo Indians, it is the proportions of what Deloy shot, and that photograph still stands today. And some have tried to rip it to pieces. They don't like me talking, but like it's serious. Arthur C. Clarke even gave it the benefit of the doubt he believed that that could be quite real because there was something to that and all the other reports. Aside from him, I'm the only one until my book to give that serious consideration as the inspiration for a lot of the Bigfoot reports, and it certainly has to be the Dasonaqua. The Indians said that they're the nude people of the forest. They're about 5 feet tall. And the Bigfooters just kind of changed that into the 8-foot-tall Bigfoot, and that has no basis
Which is interesting.
in anything the Indians ever told them.
Because to me, this creature you're talking about would sound a lot more intriguing than a Bigfoot because, I mean, you're basically talking about what could be the missing link.
You're talking about something more man-sized, and in the 1950s and 60s, they wanted the giant because the evolutionary theory at that time was that the Gigantopithecus was an evolved form, no lateral, and so they wanted this to be a missing link, so it had to be giant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of, but to me, it would seem like it would be the opposite. Like I would picture a little 5-foot-tall apish humanoid as being more like the cross between, you know, maybe some sort of giant spider monkey that eventually turned into a human.
But they had those bones that were from a giant in India or something that looked far more human, you know, Gigantopithecus. And the teeth, they looked far more human, so they thought a giant lateral development had occurred. So that was you know, the bird in the hand is worth more two in the bush. They had the bones, suggesting that this was far more humanoid in the giant bones.
That was just the Nephilim.
I mean, what?
That was just the Nephilim.
So what do you do with all the reports about, you know, dimensionality, like disappearing and all the more extreme paranormal type, you know, parts about the Sasquatch?
Oh, you mean like that lady that's walking around bow-legged out there trying to become the mother of a new species?
No, not quite that extreme.
You've heard that one, haven't you?
I haven't. No. Can you elaborate?
Well, no, there's many Bigfooters who believe that Bigfoot's libido is attracted to something like that. And they used to use sanitary napkins onto trees and then sit back with their rifles. They were going to get one.
Oh, yeah, we heard about that. I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, and then so some woman went out there and tried to, you know, get a baby.
I see where you're going with this. Yeah, yeah.
How did it go?
That's good.
How did it go?
Oh,
I'm
lots of
not making it up.
mosquitoes.
I mean, that's for real.
The mosquitoes were terrible.
So I stay away from the extreme stuff. It's not in recasting Bigfoot. I'm not interested in just cycling those stories and people who, you know, one's under a lady's piazza in Philadelphia and that kind of stuff.
So, would you take the shot then? If you're out hunting and Bigfoot?
I would not.
No?
No, I would film it. You have to get one in captivity or film it. If it was a dart gun, that's a different thing.
They're just really blurry usually.
Well, I don't, you know.
What about legged? Is it leg shot?
No.
No.
Because the whole big thing is to see how they walk, to prove how they walk. A skeleton wouldn't even tell you that. There'd be all this argument over how it walked.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to prove how these things walk, what they're really like, you got to get a live one.
You got to tackle one.
If you just want to prove one exists, you go shoot one. That's what Grover Krantz kept saying. And bring in the head or a finger or something that proves you just shot a living species today. That's what he would say. But that just proves it exists. That doesn't prove anything else about it. All the arguments about what it is, how it walks, how it's designed. You have to have a living one in captivity.
How smart it is, yeah, who knows? It's like trying to talk to you to boom! I wonder if, yeah, I don't know. See, if you don't have a dart gun, I've always thought that if you shot one, they would kind of become, there would be like a serious sort of protection about it. But then someone actually rightly corrected me the other day by saying the fact that we haven't found a Bigfoot is proof enough that he doesn't need your protection.
True, but there are places where Bigfoot is protected even though he officially does not exist.
California, I think, right?
No,
and
Washington State.
Washington, that's right.
Skamania County, I think it is. Or Stevens or something like that.
Good for them.
I better take my Take the Shot bumper sticker off next time I'm in Washington.
So, what do you do before we run out of time here? Do you want to get into some of the latest, later stuff and some of the scary true crime stuff you've been investigating? We were talking earlier before we started recording about you actually following the French method of.
Well, I mixed both of them, the Scotland Yard and the French method. But yeah, that was, people were surprised because I never watched that stuff. But in 2010, I like mystery. I like to crack mystery. And I started running out of all these world mysteries that were intriguing, and I started taking up true crime, and I started with Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac Killer. But I saw these genres were just dominated by someone who wants to, they have a suspect, usually their dad or their uncle or something, that can't sue them. And they build the whole book around their subject, their guilty person, and they kind of just rehash a lot of inaccuracies on the crimes, and the books are just very inaccurate. And I thought, just investigate it, not to do a journalistic work, simply to put it all in one volume, but to try and solve these things. And I really got hung up in it, far more probably than I should have. But one case led to another, to where, for the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, the hottest thing in cold case right now, I'm the most well-known independent investigator of that. I'm speaking with jurisdictions. They will accept my persons of interest. They will look at my investigation. And this is a huge, huge case. Over 10 jurisdictions in California are involved.
Wow.
50 rapes and at least 10 to 12 murders. And this guy was a maniac. He really was the real-life Michael Myers. That's what I called him. And that finally hooked with people, and they could envision what this guy was like. And the more I learn of this guy, the less I realize I know. And as I told you, I talked to a lead detective recently, and when someone told him that, tell me all about this case, you're the expert, he said, what I know about this case can fit on a 3x5 card, and I could use a fairly large font. What is known and what as opposed to what is supposed or theorized. And the facts on this guy are so small, which is astounding since he committed his crimes over a 10-year period, and 50 rapes and 10 to 12 murders and many other cases of prowling. The guy just devoted his whole time to this. It was like his hobby. And still, we're not sure about how tall he really was, what his hair color was. DNA says there's a certain color to his eye, but I know a lot of detectives really aren't too confident about that. Recently, there's this stink about the DNA that says, something German English, and I talked to other detectives, and they say that doesn't mean anything. That's a future science. You could have someone who has a very English name who could be half Italian, and how are you going to know, looking at the person's name or their picture, what their genetics really are? So you just have to do it the old method, and where they cannot exclude someone, finding them they were in another location, they were in prison at the time, or they were out of the country, they have to go after DNA, and because his DNA is on record, he was a rapist. And so far, I know that there have been 6,000 to 7,000 persons of interest. There have been between 600 and 700 DNA tested, and still no hit. I failed with one person of interest. It's not official yet, but I'm sure I failed with another. After I submitted that, I got a color picture and saw his eyes were really the wrong color. I thought they were too far out, but that doesn't mean too much. But I think he was later identified in the military as a later attack. But another one is now going through the process with more than one jurisdiction. And I'm just going to start giving more of my persons of interest in auto-wrecking. That's my own theory based on it, and I've been told by more than one jurisdiction they think that is really one of the best leads right now. So that's why I'm persona grata, because I went out and found all this stuff on auto-wrecking and how it relates to all the reports of prowling before the fact. This creep, every time there was an unknown car in the neighborhood, and sometimes people found plate numbers and so forth. Well, over the period of years that he was stalking, enough plates were taken down and traced, and they frequently went nowhere, or they went to a car that had been wrecked. And not to the car that was seen. It was simply the plate was lifted from a wrecking yard somewhere and put on another car. And so they could never trace the guy. He covered his bases that well. And now Sacramento County is digging up all this information. They had an info dump on their website, the sheriffs, about these earlier cat burglaries in Rancho Cordova and Carmichael Citrus Heights, where the East Area rape was also concentrated and began. And these occurred 3 years in 1973, 3 years before he started in 1976. And I was just told that in one of these cases, they did, in fact, get a plate number, and they discovered that it did lead to a car that had been wrecked a month before the burglary. See, the guy robbed someone, did a cat burglary on them, took his gas card and bought tires and gas, cities far and wide around Sacramento. And in those days when they ran the card over a piece of paper, you know, the thing, the hard copy for credit cards, and they took the license plate down number at gas stations. Well, they got that record and saw and traced that car to one that was no longer in existence. So how did this guy get the plate? And this is the exact same MOEAR was doing. So that's propelling them onward behind the scenes in investigation to link these early cat burglaries with him and then try and get his ID from that.
And so this is still an open case, right? Not like these other ones that you started with. This is still...
It's a cold case in most jurisdictions, but in Sacramento, I do believe the detectives working on it are active homicide investigators.
So
even though this is a 40-year-old case, you have, I don't know how many detectives working on it from Orange County, Santa Barbara County, Ventura County. Those are the counties he murdered. He's believed to have murdered 2 people up in Sacramento, in Rancho Cordova, the Majoras. So that's why Sacramento is involved still, because there's no statute of limitations on murder. And they kept everything from all the rape cases. And this is where he started. This is where he concentrated the most. There's, I forget how many, there's 20 some odd of his 50 rapes. The majority are here around the Sacramento area, before he branched out into the East Bay area of San Francisco and then went south and turned murderer. So they have a lot, and they're the ones on the ground floor because it's their turf. They know where to go. They go to all the old spots, and they go through the records, I'm told. It takes them 6 months to go through a month of records from 1973 or 76 or something, and they've looked through hundreds of thousands trying to make the links because they believe that EAR showed cat burglary skill before in his very first attack, and so they think he had some kind of previous record as a cat burglar. And they're trying to find all those records now and try and find a link to him from that, because, you know, these guys, these serials make their mistakes in the beginning when they're developing.
Right. They're honing their methods.
And it's just an enormous case. And of course, I don't even know a fraction of what the lead detectives know. They have all the restricted information. So if he admits humbly that he only knows for a fact what can be put on a small card, that's humbling to me that I must know only a fraction of that. I can put mine on a thumbnail. And yet this guy's the most prolific serial offender in history.
Wow. And
my website's devoted to him. I don't know what I have 100 pages devoted to him. How many blog posts have I talked about? How many photographs have I taken of how many crime scenes that I have on my site? And still, it's only a fraction of trying to backwork how this guy operated. They've come up with some very recent good stuff in the info dump, and I'm writing articles on it right now, that allows one to actually get a cause and effect on this guy. I can tell you this is the latest information, and it is based on the info dump and then what I'm told behind the scenes, and it's public. That's not restricted stuff, but the info dump talked about the Haskell Avenue incident, in which a prowler, this big husky guy, 6'5", 260 pounds, he looked out his window and here's this guy looking in at he and his wife. And so he goes outside and he is just astounded about this 5'8" guy with one hand, just puts one hand on the fence and vaults over in one leap. He never saw anybody do that. And so he starts chasing him a bit, and the guy just leaves, and he calls the police. Sheriff comes out, Marlon Weinberger, and he's talking to him out front, giving a description. Then he sees the prowler down the street on the opposite side between two homes, and he says, that's the guy. He takes off. Weinberger takes off with him and then tells the guy to lay off. He'll go do it. He chases him over another fence. Weinberger loses him in the darkness by a power substation. So he's out there on Locust Avenue now, the main street. He sees a car start up way down by the parking lots, by the apartment buildings. The car is coming to him. It's a small car. Its lights are on. And he motions it to stop because he wants it to turn into the field and shine its lights in there so he could look where this creep is. The guy hits the gas. He swerves around him and rips out of there and heads south. And Weinberger realizes, my God, this was the guy. He outdistanced him that far, got in his car. So within minutes, about 5 miles south off Manzanita Boulevard in the east area, a foreign-sounding car pulls in and does a U-turn in Sandbar Circle. And residents note that. 10 minutes later, the dogs are barking, like someone's moving through the yards. 2 hours later, EAR hits his 21st victim in their house there, and he goes through his whole thing of binding them, rape, the terror, ransacking the house and all that. But he's really crazy this time. He's swearing about the pigs. He's going to get even with the pigs. He's going to do whatever he has to he's going to kill his next couple. He tells them, I'm not going to kill you, but the next couple dies. Tell the pigs. And what is surmised is that the next couple was the couple up on Haskell Avenue. That he hated that guy for chasing him off or, getting a cop on him. That's why he's all agitated about the pigs. And the next couple is specifically meaning those people up there. The next morning, they notice on their door that up at Haskell Avenue, a pamphlet for spiritual laws, and on it, written in block letters, is almost got me next time you die.
Wow.
And so they freak out. They get an alarm set up in there. Part of the alarm is put up into the attic, the crawl space. The entrance to the attic is in the utility room over the washing machine. This is done in a few days. When the installer leaves, that Sunday, I believe, they go out to dinner and do something afterward. And they come home, and the wife notices a screw on the linoleum floor of the utility room. She notices the plaster dust on the washing machine. She says this wasn't here. She cleaned up, and they look around the house, and one of the bedroom windows was open. The screen was bent, and the guy got in the house. The sheriffs come down there, and they look at it, and they find his telltale herringbone shoe pattern on top of the washing machine. He had stood up there and tried to get in the attic to dismantle that alarm quietly, because that was a formidable obstacle back then, they deduce. And because the owner of the home only had his doors rigged anyway. He didn't have the windows. But that was still a problem for EAR. So there are some very credible people in the investigation who believe that really was him, that he came back and he had been watching them enough to know that alarm install had occurred, and he watched them leave. He came in there and he intended to very quietly disarm it and come back and get them, and they were the couple he intended to kill.
Did they ever end up dead?
What?
Did they ever end up dead?
No.
Oh, that's good.
That cascades into more that then happened at that time, that it was simply too much for him to get past. And also that guy sat up at night with a gun waiting for him. But then a few days later, he struck victim number 22 in the south of Sacramento, far away from where he just caused all the problems in the east area. And here it is thought that he might have fallen over a gate when he was getting over it and injured his shoulder, because someone popped up at American River Hospital 2 days later, in the morning of May 30th, with all this fake ID that had been stolen from an area where EAR had prowled. And they were suspicious of him at the hospital, and he fled before the detectives got there. But he gave as his injury date May 28, which was the day the next victim, victim 22, was struck in the south. And so they theorized that he actually did fall over that gate and damage his shoulder. And 2 days later, he uses the fake ID to go get medical help. And he was then inactive the entire summer of 1977, and no one ever knows why he never struck in the summer of 77 after May, which was his most frenzied month. And this theorized that he simply was incapable because his shoulder was whacked out.
Huh.
So all this cascades, I'm doing an article cascading it all together, and then it comes back to the epilogue when he comes back to the Locust Avenue area in 1978. He is particularly violent. He kicks in the front door and has wondered whether just coming back here didn't remind him of his bitter defeat with the police of the May before. And so he just kicks in the victim's front door and enters the house. He's not subtle at all. So I have to put that all together, try and reveal a pattern of how unrelenting, how violent he could be, and yet how subtle and calculating he was. It sounds unbelievable until you hear it put together basically officially that this is how it's theorized. Is it facts? No. There can be other interpretations to all of this. But that had to be him up at Haskell Avenue, and it certainly was him at victim 21 and victim 22. And in between, you can fill in the gaps, especially with falling in, being that man who was 31 years old. He gave his age as 31 at the hospital. And that he had his shoulder injury climbing the scaffolding at the Rice Growers Association. There is no there's no scaffolding there, and they talked to people there. No one knew what this was about. So he clearly had to come up with an excuse for how he had a damaged shoulder. And the ID he used was from a missing ID in an area where EAR had stalked before. And he gave the same day of the injury as the attack on 22.
And no camera footage or anything? I guess back then there wasn't a camera in every hallway.
No, not back then. And they can't even figure out why the hospital got suspicious of him. But they did call the sheriffs, and the sheriffs investigated enough and to leave this report that was dug up by the current investigators. And then there was a big news announcement about this recently here in Sacramento.
I wonder if they'll ever catch him. So when was his last attack? Was 22 or 23? Was that the last we've seen of him?
Oh, no, he attacked over 50, and then he murdered 10. So his last attack was bludgeoning a young girl in 1986. And this incident occurred in May 16 and May 17 of 1977, and May 28 of 1977 was number 22. And so he was active intensely until 1981. Then he took a 5-year break, came back, murdered his last victim, and then has never been heard from again.
Or he's changed his methods, or he's changed the location or something.
Well, he must be in his 70s by now if he's still alive.
Oh,
so,
yeah, I guess that's tough.
Yeah, after 1986, he just quit. His MO was so distinct that there's nothing that
matches.
No one was like him. Just imagine Michael Myers. This guy always wore a mask, and he was unstoppable. Dogs didn't stop him. Pit bulls didn't stop him. Nothing.
And the Night Stalker didn't catch on. So what he's called now the Night Predator?
Well, I call him the Night Predator, but his official handle was EAR, for East Area Rapist.
Yeah.
That's what he began as. No one saw that he would evolve into the #1 serial predator. And since they called him Night Stalker in the South and had to change that to original Night Stalker when he became, in the 21st century, when his case really came back to the public, and no one wanted it confused with Richard Ramirez, who was called Night Stalker with little reason. So he was known as EARONS. It's just the acronym.
Yeah.
So I call him Night Predator. Others have tried to call him other names, but nothing's really going to surpass the moniker, the acronym. It's not a very good one, but there it is. We're stuck with it.
So I want to ask you about what role the media plays in all this, and not really like in regards to Sasquatch or UFOs or the Bermuda Triangle, but more like this true crime stuff. Because, you hear, the media is just, a 24-hour news cycle now, cycling over things again and again, and it's real fear porn. Everything's negative. They need to do all this to sell papers and obviously not papers anymore, but you know what I mean. And then, but you want to know if there's something dangerous in your neighborhood. So to me, I struggle with it. Because I don't really watch the news, but it seems like it's just all negative and all, half it's bullshit. And then you wonder what to believe and what are they blowing out of proportion. But after you've been involved in this and had to obviously separate yourself out emotionally from investigating like 70 something serious cases for this one guy, like, what do you think about?
I don't think the press really grasps. I think they downplay
the real
something
stuff
like this. I think they should play it up a little more, but I don't think they have a real handle on it. That's why I was kind of proud of myself when I came up with the real life Michael Myers as a way to just, crystallize this guy in people's minds. I'm never very good at something like that. But that's basically what he was. So just picture Halloween dealing with that creep at night. And he's unstoppable. And I just don't... the only one who came close to that was Carol Daly. She was one of the detectives on the case back when, in the 1970s. She later became undersheriff for Sacramento County. She's a very well-known figure here. And so in the recent news article, she said he was everything out of a horror movie. And that's basically, what I'm saying, too, that you just look at all your horror movie slashers and killers, and basically you're talking about the real-life version of this guy.
Huh.
And so I don't think it fully sets with people. There's been an awful lot of, there's a documentary on airing, last 2 hours of a miniseries airing tonight. I think it's CNN dealing with it again. And I'm watching my statistics on my website. And there's a slight increase, but those stations aren't really bringing people in. When my section first went up, I got 50,000 people coming in off a single Reddit link. And maybe I'll be getting 300-400 more people than usual coming in off of this major documentary news blurb. It's just, it's people aren't watching TV. They're not, I don't think they really can fully grasp a crime spree like this. And even one of the detectives said when she first saw the case, she didn't even believe it was real, that anybody could do something like this and then be forgotten. He was basically forgotten for quite some time.
That's crazy. So what do you think's up with the guy? Is he absolutely crazy, or is there any sort of
Well, if he's
other...
not dead, it's hard to say. I don't believe that, I think serial killers are cowards anyway. And so I don't picture one ever going after me or somebody else, because they've just never been known to do that. That's in the movies. But you see what this guy's like, and you wonder if he had that kind of rage over it being interrupted by this guy and by this cop. And he did have other periods of rage. How could he be so calm and calculating all these other times, like a cat burglar? I just don't, I don't know what he's like now, if he's even around, but he'd be in his 70s, I would think. And, or he's dead. He's been dead for 30 years, and that's why there's been no DNA hit on him. I don't know what to say. I thought my first person of interest, I pushed him out of the way for my second one because of an age difference. I went for the younger guy, and he got cleared by DNA. He was dead, and they uploaded a spot card from the coroner and cleared him by DNA. And I went back to my original guy, got more pictures on him, and he really fits, and he's undergoing the process now, but he was much older. And but I just can't imagine, he's alive, so I don't talk about any of my living ones. And I just can't imagine if the guy's alive that he would be so dumb as to remain in this country with what's going on, unless he feels he is so insulated. I think he'd go to Mexico or Canada, Mexico more likely. But I don't know, I still feel somehow that he's dead. If I'm wrong with these guys, which I could be, all these guys in auto wrecking, I would just have to feel the guy's dead, how can there be absolutely no lead to him, no possible lead yet, with all the clues that were left, how he covered himself so much with these fake plates. He's left so much DNA over all California. And yet no one's gotten close. And then, all these young guys with blonde hair and blue eyes are being turned in because that's what people think he looked like. But no one really knows what he looked like.
Well,
under
Halloween
6 foot
came
is what
out.
they can say.
Halloween came out in 78?
Yes.
Was it based on this guy?
No, it was
no
just,
chance.
I don't even think Hollywood even knew he existed. He was more or less something around Sacramento at the time. he didn't become a national or even a state thing until 21st century, because the murders down south were of such a different kind that they were never sure if it was the same guy. And only when DNA began to link them did they know that he did go down south and continued as a murderer.
Did they ever try psychics or anything like that?
Have they ever tried what?
Did they ever try using like psychics or anything like that?
I'm sure psychics offered their help. I don't think they went to them intentionally.
Maybe they should try. So I heard you
ask the UFOs next time.
When I heard you on Banal of America, you guys were on with a woman. I think she was the sister of one of the later victims.
Yes, Michelle.
Did she?
Michelle is the sister of the last victim.
Yeah. Did she end up? How did her POIs end up working out? I mean, obviously they didn't catch him or anything like that or figure it out. But I wondered if that was She seemed to be, I don't know, it really seemed to be getting close between the two of you.
I don't know. I remain completely independent. I don't investigate with other people.
Yeah.
My information goes to actual detectives who will tell me whether they're going to pursue, this person in detail, and even to the point of DNA.
Yeah.
So I can turn my information in straight to them. And she has her own routes. She uses different people in a different jurisdiction. So it's whatever you can get. Most everybody else, I think, is a tipster who, if they turn someone in, they're really not going to hear back. Maybe they'll be told if they were eliminated, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you don't hear back, obviously your guy was eliminated.
Yeah.
Well, there's a ton of information about it on the website, thequesterfiles.com. Like you said, I think there's at least 100 different posts there just on the night predator. And there's like 7 or 8 different serial killers, it looks like there. So yeah, people could kill hours and hours and hours over at the website. And while they're there, they should buy some books.
Yeah, I hope so, yes.
Well, big thank you for your time tonight, Gian. We really appreciate it. We should let you get off to your dinner. But
thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, and thanks for sticking around a little longer than scheduled. And yeah, we'll have to have you back on again down the road, and maybe after you've cracked the case.
Hopefully.
Right on. All right.
You guys take care.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Bye.
Now is our chat with Gian Quasar. Quasar. Yeah, that was a fun one. I didn't know what to expect, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad we got some laughs because Banal had me thinking
serious,
that Tim had me thinking that it was going to be very stuffy, but it wasn't at all.
No,
wasn't surprised. The Canadians have a way
come to Grimerica to get a couple of laughs.
Calm down, yeah. Let their guard down.
Yeah.
So yeah, big thanks to John for coming on the show. Do check out the Quester Files, guys. There's a ton, you could get lost in the website for days.
Has he been on your friend's show there back east, the Boner Party guy?
Boner Party? I don't know. Well, we're going to talk to Boner Party in...
Because he's into the true crime. He loves this guy.
Well, we're doing a true crime black budget show we're recording it later this month with him for our black budget feeds. His isn't called the black budget. I don't know what it's called. But we're doing a true crime.
Talk about your childhood?
Are you trying to be funny?
The true crime.
Oh, look, laugh it up. Don't laugh. Yeah, big thanks, Gian. Check out the website, guys. There's a ton of stuff. Buy a book. Graham's going to buy a book now. You're going to have to go buy. You're going to have to go buy the Bigfoot book now. We should go buy a book or two.
So that brings us to the support. Asking for support.
Which brings it to the next thing where we ask you for your money. Check out Grimerica.ca/support, guys. There's a ton of different options there. We got the Patreon going as well now. That's Grimerica.ca/Patreon. There's a link on the support page as well. We do have the new and improved black budget page, which has the upcoming schedule and things like that. So you can send in some questions as well as the 20 episodes. And we have lined up a couple of interviews for the next. We're going to start interviewing some past guests and putting them into the black budget feed. here and again. So we got one
And
coming
some
up.
swap
with,
casts, right?
Yes, some swap casts. We'll go into the regular feed. We got some of those coming up. We're doing one later this month with those conspiracy guys and Tim Banal, and then we're doing one next month with the Cult of Somebody. Cult of Tim? Cult
And
of
what
somebody.
about Tinfoil Heck?
Tripoli and Ryan are going to come, and we're going to do a black budget / their Patreon swapcast for the premium feeds.
And how do people get into the black budget feed?
Go to grimerica.ca/support and sign up for a weekly, monthly, or yearly subscription, or do a one-time donation, or go over to the Patreon page and sign up for some sort of pledge there, and any or all of those will get you access. And there's 20 episodes in there now. It looks like we got another 2 or 3 going in this month. Like I said, we're going to start doing an interview or 2 a month as well. And there's also, if you go to the web page now, over under the supporters tab on the far right, you can go and listen to the first 5 or 6 minutes of all the existing Black Budget episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
So basically you get through Failed's jingle and...
Yeah, that's about it, yeah. You know what's funny is for the first 4, we use that little generic intro for them. Yeah. So that's 3 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah. But it's enough to get a feel for it, I guess. What else am I going to do? Can't put the whole thing up. We're going to release the Mum Show into the regular feed on Mother's Day. So a couple trickle in from time to time. But if you want to know what's in the Black Budget feed, it's real easy. Go over to the grimerica.ca/support page and sign up for a thing. And then you'll get all the Black Budget content. And it looks like it's going to get a little more exciting down the road. So, things are looking up. So check it out.
And if more people did that, you'd be less sick of podcasting.
And if more people did that, I'd be less sick of podcasting. So that's a good place as any to wrap it up, guys. There's a ton of other ways to support the show that don't cost any money. They're in Graham's Honey DoBeDo list in the show notes. So if you can't afford to support the show, go do all that shit. Email me and tell me you did all that shit and you can't do a monthly or something right now. And we'll, maybe we could work something out. Someone else was doing some offered, I can't remember what they did. Someone else tracked down a couple email addresses or something like that because he didn't have a credit card or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant way. Yeah.
So, if you don't have any access to any way of supporting the show financially, but you really, really, really want the Black Budget, email me and we'll figure something out. But I think most of you can afford $1 a month.
Yeah, the other thing is you can get a hold of Darren on Twitter as well, and me on Instagram.
That's right. And we're on the YouTubes.
And email us feedback. Yeah, it's always good. Stories, all that kind of stuff. Great to hear from listeners.
Like the show on Facebook, rate the show on iTunes, review the show on iTunes, and spam Graham like a motherfucker. He needs more spam. Graham's almost out of spam. He's wasting away. The calves are shrinking down to nothing. Guy needs spam. He lives on it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Imaginary lines, twisted and tangled with a handshake with a signature and some policy papers behind enemy lines. Tension builds, a cell phone rings, a bomb drops in a city street sea of iPod noise. Don't get comfortable, free thinkers. Don't get comfortable, free thinkers. If the digital revolution still got a pulse, we need to revive it and make it a reality. I've hacked into a politician's password and transferred money into several overseas accounts. And as we speak, a supercomputer project is in the works. And if it works, we'll use it to point and click our way to some sort of truth. Either you're in or out, are you game, or is the game over? This must be a glitch in the Matrix. This must be a glitch in the Matrix. A revolutionary dream. It's me versus the machine. Go! Watch out for them laser beams. Climb to the top of the pyramid scheme. Capitol Hill's getting steeper and steeper. Meanwhile, the deck gets deeper and deeper. Don't get comfortable, free thinkers. Cause it's gonna take more than hand and eye coordination on your PlayStation. It's gonna take mind elevation. There must be a glitch in the Matrix. There must be a glitch in the Matrix. A revolutionary dream. It's me versus the machines. Go! Breaking from my routine, I dive into my computer screen. Swimming in a sea of zeros and ones. Trying to put together 2 and 2, but I keep getting lost. Trying to weed through all the lines from the bad guys in the suits and the necktie. Help me find the oracle. She has the answers. There must be a glitch in the Matrix. There must be a glitch in the Matrix. A revolutionary dream. Rage against the machine. Don't get comfortable, free thinkers. Rage against the machine.
Who tried to sabotage the igloo? 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 Darren and Graham are gonna get you. Darren and Graham are gonna get you. Sing it, they're making preparations. Preparations for their reparations. Sing it, Viva Grimerica Nation. Oh, Viva Grimerica. Oh, Viva Grimerica. Viva Grimerica. Oh, Viva Grimerica. Viva Grimerica. Sing it, oh, Viva Grimerica. Viva Grimerica, whoa, Viva Grimerica, Viva Grimerica.
Hailstorm damage got you blue? Sunburn get you let down? Well, introducing the new Gem Trails. Gem Trails are a convenient new chemtrail that we plow through your sky to ensure you with the haziest and non-blue sky that you could have. Gem Trails. Choose from our variety of geo-engineered aerosols loaded with toxic chemicals. Some chemicals may include barium, strontium-90, aluminum, cadmium, zinc, viruses of all sorts and varieties, and chafe, which actually looks like snow, but may actually be fibers coated with aluminum, desiccated blood cells, plastic, and paper. All chemtrails can be conveniently customized for your needs. Just ask our friend here, James Cruz. Chemtrails. James Cruz ordered the barium, strontium-90, and the chafe. And the chafe he chose was desiccated blood cells and plastic. Chemtrails.
So I'm sitting in my backyard, getting sunburned constantly, and I hear this ad come on the radio. Chemtrails. Chemtrails. And what they can do for you is amazing. For 33 payments of $333, Chemtrails. No more sunburn. Thanks, Chemtrails. Chemtrails. Thanks, Chemtrails.
That's right, James. For 33 easy payments of $330, you too could have a hazy sky with 0 sun and 0 sunburn. With our brand new technology coming straight out of MIT, we fitted an airplane with nozzles, and we can come to any area in the world and spray your backyard.
Chemtrails.
Warning, warning, warning! Symptoms associated with chemtrails include aneurysms, strokes, heart attacks, and cancer.
Chemtrails.
Other side effects may include irradiated breast milk, anal leakage, jock itch, runny nose, irregular vaginal discharge, glaucoma, heavy metal poisoning, lockjaw, and low sperm count, persistent hacking, coughing, upper respiratory and intestinal distress, pneumonia, extreme fatigue, disorientation, lethargia, dizziness, splitting headaches, elevated arthritis symptoms, nosebleeds, blah blah blah, yada yada, etc., doctors, blah blah blah, death.
Chemtrails.
If you want it, we spray it. So get your chemtrails today. Call 1-900-GRAY-SKY. That's 1-900-GRAY-SKY. That's 1-900-WEFUCKED.
Thanks, chemtrails.